ACC preview time. Jordan, even with our preview heading into the South Carolina game this past weekend, we still did not have great feelings of our chances of making the ACC championship game. Clemson obviously 7-1 in the ACC. SMU comes in 8-0. Luckily, our boys up north, the Orange, Syracuse, got the job done, handed Miami their second conference loss. Miami loses to Georgia Tech, loses to Syracuse, ultimately pushing Clemson into that number 2 spot in the ACC. And we'll be facing off against an 11-1 SMU team coming in as hot as can be. Their only loss coming to a BYU team only by 3 points. This is a good team, man. This is a dynamic team. This is a team that's going to come in. They're going to be fearless. They're going to be looking to steal the crown. And they're going to be looking to take down the team that's most recently won the most ACC championships in Clemson. You look at this SMU team, you try to find some crossover games. They had 5 common opponents. They played Florida State, Louisville, Sanford, Pitt, and Virginia. And I know transitive properties do not compute in college football, but it is of note that they beat each of those teams by more points than Clemson beat them by. What you take from that is what you take from that. It's just worth a mention. Obviously, they beat Louisville. We lost to Louisville. So what are your overall thoughts on, before we get into the game and before we start breaking down SMU and Clemson, just give your overall thoughts on the craziness of Saturday, how Clemson ended up in this ACC championship game, and kind of your emotions as you found out, and how you feel now heading into this ACC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal. When Syracuse was kneeling that ball out, and they ran it down Miami's throats to on that final drive to seal it. It was unbelievable. Just it was a swing of emotions I don't think I've experienced as a fan. Like, that feeling of hope, utter hopelessness, replaced by, oh my God, that you got a chance.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to get back into the ACC championship game. I felt like this is where this team should have been, coming into the season. I felt like this was a more of a 10-2, type team that was going to be right there and to make the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
Didn't happen the way we thought it would, but I'm certainly happy to be in it. I'm never going to turn down an opportunity for Clemson to play in Charlotte, especially considering Dabo's track record in Charlotte. So, it's going to be a really exciting day on Saturday. I hate that it's at 8. I hate that it's always in the evening.
Always 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
Always.
It's going to be killer. I was thinking about going to this game, but it's not going to work with my schedule that Saturday. But I'm excited for this game, and I think, like you said, SMU. This is a very, very good SMU team. They're the favorites in this game for a reason. As far as point spread is concerned, this is a very, very good team, really complete, and with a lot of high caliber athletes, more than you would expect from a team that was just in a group of 5 team last season. Like, they have this is a really, really good roster, and especially their starters. This is a really, really good football team.
Yeah, definitely a good football team. It feels so different this year. We were kind of in a similar situation 2 years ago when we lost to South Carolina, and that kind of cost us a playoff berth. But we ultimately still had the ACC championship game against North Carolina, right? But this feels completely different. One, obviously, because, we didn't think we were going to be in the ACC championship game, and then suddenly we were. and our season was over and our playoff hopes are completely gone, and suddenly they're not, right? So Clemson wins and they're in. SMU, as we mentioned before, obviously they win and they're in. If they lose, I still think they should be in. I don't think this game should be consequential as far as a playoff berth for SMU, but again, we shall see. But with that said, Jordan, let's go ahead and dive into the game. Like I said, SMU comes in 11-1 on the season. Their only loss, a 3-point loss to BYU. Clemson comes in 9-3, losing to Georgia, Louisville, South Carolina on the season. So let's talk about this SMU offense. You mentioned that they got some dudes. They don't quite look like the team you would expect to be moving from a group of 5 conference into a Power 4 conference, and it being their first year. You look at some of the athletes they got on the field. Obviously, this offense starts with Kevin Jennings, their quarterback, took over this season, 2,700 yards through the air. He's got 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Got another 83 carries with 344 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 4.1 yards a carry. So a guy that can absolutely get it done through the air, a guy that can also hurt you with his legs. We know that Clemson's defense has been susceptible to that. Look no further than last weekend, and that's the last mention I'll have of that. And then obviously they got a dynamic running back, came from Miami, followed the coach, Rashard Smith, 193 carries, 1,100 yards on the season, 14 touchdowns, and a 6-yard average per carry. So really good season he's having. And then at wide receiver are pass catchers, because there's a tight end in here as well. But they got 4 or 5 guys that are just kind of neck and neck as far as stats. They got some dynamic players on the outside. Roderick Daniels, 30 receptions, 502 yards. Keyshawn Smith, 30 receptions, 499 yards. Jordan Hudson, 31 catches, 363 yards. And then the tight end, R.J. Maryland, 24 receptions for 359 yards. Like I said, lots of weapons to choose from. 2,100 yards passing on the season, 3,100 rushing yards on the season. Pretty dynamic offense, an offense that can beat you a lot of different ways. Let's hear your thoughts on this SMU offense, their playmakers, and how this Clemson Tiger defense is going to match up and try to limit some of the stuff that they're going to attempt to do to put up points against these Tigers this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Just the amount of weapons that this offense has, and the crazy thing is with how good they've been recently is that they haven't had R.J. Maryland, their tight end. He's probably out for the season. Really, really outstanding tight end, arguably the best in the ACC when healthy. So, and not having them in their offense not really falling off at all, kind of just speaks to how good they are, how good Rhett Lashley has done as head coach and primary. This is his offense, this is his baby. They do a lot to manipulate coverage, lots of motions, and they have guys with speed that will make you pay, especially when you play a lot of man coverage like the way Clemson does. So this is going to be a really, really tough matchup. And you mentioned that Kevin Jennings, how good he is in the air and on the ground, just makes it that much more difficult. He, a much better fit for Rhett Lashley's system than I think Preston Stone was. Yeah. And it kind of showed, early in the year. And so he's kind of settled in, and, once he took that starting job, he's never looked back, and he's been really, really dynamic. Got third team all ACC honors this week. That's one thing we didn't talk about is all ACC teams, but that we can discuss that later. But again, this is a really, really dynamic group of pass catchers. And of course they have a really, really dynamic running back in Rashard Smith, one of the fastest players in the ACC. You're going to have to get hands on him. You're going to have to tackle, because he can make one guy miss, and it's going to be hard to catch him. So again, really, really good offense. I do think that their weakness is probably their offensive line. they do, they can give up pressures and sacks. Kevin Jennings has made them a lot. He's another quarterback that can make you, wrong even when you're right. Not to the degree that Lenore Sellers is. He's obviously a lot more wiry. Like if you get hands on him, he'll go down. He's not going to break a bunch of tackles and steamroll guys. He's not that kind of quarterback, but he does make plays with his legs. But he also, and he also makes plays with his legs to throw, not just to, not just to run. So again, this is a really dynamic offense, one that I think Clemson is going to have a lot of problems that they're going to have to account for, especially with the consistent issue of tackling and the and the lack of discipline there at times, and maintaining your rush lanes, especially like combine those things with what you showed this past Saturday. Rhett Lashley is going to do some things to make Clemson look silly. I think so. We'll see kind of what their game plan is. You're going to have to cover, and you're going to have to tackle, and you're going to have to be disciplined because they're going to throw a lot at you as far as eye candy. And so you're going to have to be really, really disciplined in order to get stops against this team.
Yeah, absolutely. This defense is going to have their work cut out for them. Wes Goodwin's going to have to come in with a really good plan. You hope you get guys like DeMonte Capehart back for, significant snaps in this game. Obviously, him and Peter Woods in the middle would be a great combination there. But you need guys to set the edge, right? We can't make the same mistake that we did against South Carolina, where you over pursue the quarterback and give him avenues behind the defensive line to gain big chunk yardage on the ground. This Clemson defense cannot allow SMU to come out there and establish the run early, because then it turns into a long day for the Tigers, right? So containing the quarterback and stopping that run is first and foremost. And then obviously the Clemson secondary, they're going to have their work cut out for them. I mentioned all the playmakers they have out wide. These guys are dynamic pass catchers, and our corners, our safeties are going to have to really lock in and try to affect them. We got to try to get pressure on the quarterback, but, again, not over pursue, keep him within the pocket, and hopefully come up with, a few sacks, hopefully limit their running game, make them more one-dimensional. And I think that's Clemson's avenue to a successful ACC championship game on the defensive side of the ball. Again, a lot easier said than done.
Definitely. I think, how this defense, is prepared in this game, I think is ultimately going to be the difference in whether or not you come out of there with a win or not. I think you need the defense to I don't think Clemson wants to get into a shootout with this team. That's for sure.
This is a team with a ton of speed, so our linebackers are going to have to be super athletic, run sideline to sideline, and really show out this game. They're definitely our linebacking core definitely capable of it. But again, this is going to have to be a really good game from the defensive side of the ball in order to at least limit. I mean, SMU is going to get their points. You're not going to hold them to 10 points or anything crazy like that. Like SMU is going to score. You're gonna take your lumps on defense. You're gonna give up some points, but you got to limit them enough and give your offense a chance to kind of put some distance between you and this dynamic offense they got. But the key to that is we're going to have to score points as well, Jordan. So turning the page to this Clemson Tigers offense, obviously coming off of this South Carolina game where it was kind of up and down. There were points and times in the South Carolina game where they moved the ball really well. They looked poised. Cade Klubnik was getting the ball out of his hands quickly. The short passing game was really giving South Carolina fits. But this is a defense that is going to try to heat them up, right? I mentioned that this defense comes in with 37 sacks on the season. Their leading tackler, Kobe Wilson, linebacker for them, has got 44 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 interceptions on the season. So a really dynamic guy on the defensive side of the ball. So What are your thoughts on this SMU defense? How do they match up against our Clemson Tigers offense, and what are some avenues that you see that can be exploited on the defensive side of the ball for SMU?
Yeah, this is a really, really, fast and aggressive SMU defense. They lead the country in pressures. They have 37 sacks on the year. They have a really, really good rotation of ends, especially up front. Like they're going to blitz, and they're going to try to heat you up. I think, because of how they play, kind of not as aggressive as Pitt, but they are kind of in that mold. Like they want to get sacks and tackles for loss. That has left their secondary exposed. I believe they're 85th in pass defense in the country. So they are not a very good, pass D. They'll give up plays. I don't necessarily think their defensive backs are bad. It's just the consequence of how they play defense. They are willing to give up. They're okay with the risk of giving up explosives if that means they can get to the quarterback. I think good protection, first and foremost, is going to be paramount. Kind of what you saw Saturday, you had a great game plan, getting the ball out quick. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think they're as, talented as South Carolina's defensive line. I think that's what makes me, feel pretty, optimistic about the Clemson offense in this game, is that I think he faced better defensive lines in this game, this season, and you've honestly held up well. It really hasn't been your offensive line giving up a lot of plays most of the year, and so I think it's on Cade. I think he's got to be decisive, and I think the receivers have to win on the outside. It's been hit or miss at times this season as far as that's concerned, and as far as the play calling and situationally, it has left a lot to be desired. But I think that's going to be paramount. And I mean, you got to find some semblance of a run game. You were such a good running football team, through the first 6-7 games of the season. And, with Phil Maffa, clearly being not close to 100%, and the lack of rotation of the running backs, you got to find something there. It can't just be, Phil Maffa toss sweep, Phil Maffa inside zone, get counter play that gets blown up. Like that can't be the entirety of the run game. You got to throw some wrinkles in there, because they are going to want to limit your run game. And so they are a very good run defense. So you got to be able to find something. You got to find something there. But I do think there will be plays to be had in this game through the air, and it's about Cade being accurate. The receivers got to win for him, and they did that especially in the first half of this past week. See if they can do it again, because I ultimately think that'll ultimately be whether the difference in whether or not you're scoring 20-something points a game or you're getting into the 30s, because I do think there will be opportunities to score a lot in this game, but you got to make the plays, and that's something we haven't seen as much the second half of the year. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, no, without a doubt. Certainly, it's going to be an interesting game, man. It's odd for Clemson, just the way that we ended up in this game, last minute type deal. But I got a good feeling. I think Clemson, will match up athlete for athlete well with SMU. Obviously, if you look at the rosters from a ranking talent standpoint, obviously Clemson has the edge. SMU comes in with more momentum, but again, Cade Klubnik got to take care of the football. Turnovers will get you in a bad way really quickly in this game. So being smart with it, taking care of the football. Offensive line, we need them to protect Cade, right? We need them to really have themselves a day. Need those guys back healthy. Marcus Tate, Tristan Lay, need all those guys back healthy. Just need Cade Klubnik to do his thing and have himself a game.
Yep. And I think he's. I mean, seeing the I think there was a quote I didn't but I think when he was interviewed that he sat in his car after the game on Saturday and didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But until he found, and then when he found out that Clemson was going to be playing in the ACC championship game, like he was just like everything that had been trouble. Like all of a sudden, he was like, he was filled with like this, sense of confidence. I mean, obviously he's won this game before,
Right.
and so I think Cade being familiar in that setting, obviously, especially under the circumstances in which he did the first time, I do think lends a lot in this matchup. And Clemson does have the experience; they have guys that they've played in this game. This is not anything new for this program. Obviously, this is our 10th appearance in the ACC championship game. So it's a pretty special thing, and so I do think that is a dynamic of this matchup that not a lot of people are talking about is Clemson's experience in these types of games that SMU doesn't, and the fact that SMU, as good as they've been this season, schedule wise, they hasn't, I don't think they faced a team with the caliber of talent or athlete that Clemson has. So as much as we have to play SMU has to play Clemson. So, that's something that, the national writers are not going to talk about because, Clemson has, underperformed in these types of games up to this point.
Yep.
But I do think it is worth considering. And, obviously things would look a lot differently if you had closed out the game on Saturday from a optics standpoint. And people would be feeling
100%. I mean, look, there's a lot of criticism out there of this Clemson Tiger team, and the criticism is fair. And this current team has earned a lot of that criticism, right? The fact that your best win is against a very injured Pittsburgh team, and the fact that that win came on a last-second heroic play from one Cade Klubnik. That looks bad for you. The other two teams with, really good records and will be considered good competition, you lost every single one of them: South Carolina, Louisville, and Georgia. So all of that criticism is fair. All of that criticism is true. It's accurate. It's unfortunate. It's not the way that we wanted this season to go. But at the end of the day, with that said, the team has to put that stuff behind them. They can't listen to that noise. You have an ACC championship. Clemson's got they are gifted an opportunity right now. They're on their third strike, and third strike, you're out, right? They have wasted multiple opportunities this season for controlling their own destiny with Louisville. Didn't get the job done. If they would have won against South Carolina, they probably have a pretty good chance of getting an at-large bid into the college football playoff. Struck out again, didn't get the job done. So here's your third and last opportunity, 2024 Clemson football team. You're in the ACC championship game. You beat SMU. You're in the playoffs, and you get to hoist another ACC trophy. You don't? Well, your season's done, and
say hello to the Pop-Tart Bowl or the Citrus Bowl or wherever they send us.
You're off to eat as many Pop-Tarts as you possibly can. I don't know. But, I want to see this Clemson team come out and look like they got something to play for. I want to see this Clemson team come out with some fire, with some, some swag about them. Don't waste this opportunity, because this Clemson Tiger team has wasted multiple opportunities this year, if we're just being honest. So don't waste this one. Come out with some fire. Come out with some tenacity. Come out with your, with the right attitude, and put it on SMU. That's what the Tigers need to do. Reclaim your crown as the ACC championship game, and then let's see what matchup we get in the college football playoff, and let's see if we can make some noise. That's where I'm at. But the team's got to go out there and earn it. Everything's in front of you. Somehow you control your own destiny again. As crazy as that sounds, looking back at how the season's gone, but Clemson controls their own destiny. So win and you keep going, lose and you go home.
Yep.
There you go.
Ultimately what it is. And special teams don't, the conversation we've had about special teams is the same that we'll have each week. Don't lose. just please don't do anything to lose you the game. That's all we can hope for these days with special teams at Clemson. Really sad story. Aiden Swanson, 35-yard punts. Just don't, kicking a kicking game that you can't trust to not, have one blocked. Hell, like you've had an extra point block this year too. So even the short ones aren't.
Watch this game come down to a kick.
Jesus, man. And the thing is like when Clemson was driving at the end on Saturday, I was like, good Lord, please punch this in. And it's funny. I was like, I don't want this to end on a kick.
Touchdown.
Yeah. And I didn't even feel like the game was going to end on a turnover. So like that didn't even. So when it did end on a turnover, I was like, wow. I guess
That's the
I
one
got my wish.
Coming.
Yeah, I got my wish, but not in the way that I wanted. It didn't end on a kick.
It did not end on a kick. That's for sure. Oh man. Wow. All right, Jordan. We'll go ahead and leave that preview there. Shout out to Syracuse before we turn the page from this.
Yep.
Shout out to Brown. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Our brothers from the north, the orange guys got to stick together. So we appreciate that. You giving Clemson new birth into the ACC championship game, new momentum, and let's see what we can do with it. Let's not waste the opportunity that Syracuse has given us.
Yes.
All right, Jordan, the injury report heading into the ACC championship game this weekend versus SMU. We got to talk some injuries. Clemson's been banged up for several weeks. Not everybody's missing games, but we got a lot of guys that are nicked up, a lot of guys that are injured, some guys that have sat out several games. So I'm going to rattle off a list of guys that are injured and possibly might be back, possibly might not be back. We'll talk about it. Tristan Lay, offensive tackle for the Tigers, has missed several games. Marcus Tate, basically the left side of our offensive line, has been MIA for several weeks now. Hopefully we get those guys back full strength, ready to rock and roll. We're definitely going to need them in this game. We're definitely going to need them for the postseason push, should we have an opportunity for a postseason push. So next guy I want to talk about, RJ Mickens, a guy who was injured on the last play when Lenore Sellers ran it in for that dagger touchdown against the Tigers. You saw RJ Mickens behind him kind of pull up, non-contact injury. He was helped off the field. Not sure the extent of his injury. Hopefully he'll be back for the game. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. DeMonte Capehart, Dabo said that he did get some practice in, but as the week goes on, time will tell whether he'll be able to play or not. If we get that guy back, that'll be a big deal. That can't be understated how significant of a deal it'll be to get a DeMonte Capehart back. And then a guy we've kind of stopped talking about for several weeks because Clemson decided to shut him down and redshirt him. Tyler Brown had that tightrope surgery on his ankle. I think he's been able to go for at least a week or two now.
Yeah,
but
he's practicing right now.
They held him to try to get his year back. They got his year back. He redshirted this season, but he's a green lighted for the postseason. So I'm assuming we'll see some Tyler Brown in this ACC championship game. And a guy that has missed zero time that I want to talk about, Phil Maffa, the health of Phil Maffa. He's looked hurt for probably 4 weeks, really labored for about 4 weeks. He trots out there in the South Carolina game. He goes out of the game on more than one occasion where he's clearly banged up, clearly injured, not doing well. So I put him on the injury report list just so we can talk about what do we think his level of health is going to be heading into the ACC championship game, and how much he's going to actually be able to go. So, thoughts on the injury list, the significance of the guys on here, who we're going to get back, who we're not going to get back. Jordan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. As far as injuries are concerned, I mean, I think you're in a better place than you were last week. You did see DeMonte Capehart play a little bit in that South Carolina game. He definitely gave it a go. They limited his snap count, so
Yes.
hopefully, he's made enough progression, through the week that maybe you can have him out there a little bit more. The RJ Mickens situation is going to be interesting because that did not look good. I think he got rolled up on or by a teammate. Somebody stepped on. I feel like that's what it was. I'm not sure, but it was because I didn't want to rewatch that play too many times because it would make me feel sick all over again.
We know why.
Yeah. So good to have him back. A guy we didn't talk about in the I don't believe we discussed it in the post game, but Shelton Lewis played.
Shelton Lewis did play. Yes.
Yeah, we had no idea. I was like. I think I noticed it like halfway during the game, like halfway through the first quarter. I was like, "Wait, is that two that I'm seeing out there?" And I was like, "Oh my, okay." We had no idea that Shelton was going to.
When did he get back?
Yeah, it felt like he was going to be shut down for the year. So that was a wrinkle that I probably helped at least a good bit from a secondary standpoint, and helped you defend the pass the way that you did. But yeah, getting him back, if he is good to go and playing nickel, like that's going to help a ton.
Yeah.
And who'd you meet? Yeah, Phil Maffa, of course, is a guy that you hope that he's. I hope Clemson is smarter with how they implement him in the offense on Saturday. Let's just say that, and hope that if he's laboring, you give another guy an opportunity, because
right.
Jay Haynes 2 carries for 11 yards when your feature back is clearly not 100%. I don't get that, man.
And by not 100%, like not even close. Like Phil Maffa at this point might be like maybe 60%, if that.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he is struggling out there at no fault to his own. Like I'm not attacking Phil Maffa. I'm not saying I don't want Phil Maffa on the field, but he just does not look well. So I'd love to see him out there and feeling great and running like we know he can run. But, if he can't, you got to give another guy a go. And you got some dynamic backs behind him, albeit not as good as him, not as trustworthy as him. But you got some guys that I feel like can get the job done if he's too injured to play the way that he needs to play. So that's why I kind of added him to the list. What's your thoughts on Tristan Lay, Marcus Tate? You think there'll be a full go for this game?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it, and I think, it's going to be big, because SMU, you're facing an SMU defense that has a really, really good defensive line. They are the nation's leader in pressures.
37 sacks on the year.
37 sacks on the year. Like this is a good defensive.
They've just been sacking everybody. Like they've been going crazy. So
yeah, this is a very good SMU defensive front. So getting those two back is going to be massive, and hopefully close to 100%, if not 100%. Oh, and then Tyler Brown, I think if he goes this Saturday, that's a massive boost to the wide receiver room.
I can't wait to see him back on the field, man.
Yeah, I hope they give him some. I hope he gets some opportunities. I hope they're not shy about getting him out there. I mean, if he's been cleared and he's 100, he's good, then let him roll.
Let it rip. We could use that guy, and I think there may be some Clemson fans out there that forgot who Tyler Brown is.
Yeah,
kind of similar. It's so funny. You think about Antonio Williams and Tyler Brown, like their careers have literally taken the exact same path.
Yeah.
Breakout freshman seasons, lead the team in receptions, lead the team in yards. Sophomore season, basically gone with injuries the entire season. Luckily for Tyler Brown, we're getting him back in the postseason. We weren't so well. I guess Antonio Williams came back in the postseason last year, but he was still not well when he came back. So hopefully Tyler Brown's a full go. I think that would be a shot in the arm for this offense and put another dynamic playmaker out there with the likes of Brian Westco, TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, and all the rest of the guys that we got. Jake Brenningstool, all the guys out there. So definitely be a good thing if we can get him back going.